with the prophet Isaiah when he said, Lord, you have an everlasting reputation for bringing victory, regardless of the odds. Thank you for giving us instruction when we go out to battle against your enemies and we see horses and chariots and people, executive orders, unconstitutional bills, mandates, Marxist agendas, seemingly so numerous. Don't be afraid of them, for the Lord your God is with you. Do not let your heart faint. Don't be afraid. And do not tremble or be terrified because of them. For the Lord your God goes with you to fight for you and to save you. So today, Lord, we call upon your help and ask for your strategy. In Jesus' name, we ask these blessings, and we make a declaration: America shall be saved. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Kathy. And now I'm going to ask our hospitality chair, Mary Margaret Mook, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and y'all can be seated. I want to begin by acknowledging a few special guests that we have today. First of all, we have our dear friend Tom Shedler, who is former Secretary of State. We're so happy to see him. We haven't seen him in a while. Also, we want to acknowledge Diane Cascio from the Attorney General's office. Hey, Diane. Also, Terry White. I didn't see Terry. Terry, are you here? Oh, there you are. From Garrett Graves' office. Also, Robert Burns, who's with Sound Off, Louisiana. Hey, Robert, okay. Also, from Americans for Prosperity, we have Austin Langclough. Good to see you, Austin. And I think we're expecting a couple of other AFP guys. We're going to see if they can break from the legislature and make it here. Also, we have Diane Duplessis, who's from the Central Republican Women. And Diane is president of that group. Also, I want to acknowledge several brand new members, and I will not get these names right, so y'all stand up and correct me. I want to welcome Peggy, is it Ginn? Wynn. Also, Muriel Duggins. Yay! And also, Lisa Rosenzweig. Did I get it right? Yeah, oh, good. Okay. I want to take just a moment before we have a couple of special announcements to let y'all know that I was at the legislature all day yesterday, and we were, several of us, and I want to acknowledge those folks. I want y'all to know, for those of y'all who live just too busy of lives, you cannot make it to the legislature, and we understand that, but we always have a great nucleus of folks who do manage to make it. And so I want to acknowledge Katie Alexander, who was so sweet to pick me up yesterday because I just had eye surgery. And Christy Hyde, Kathy Costanza, let me see, and Jeanette Kobler's not here. She was there yesterday, and I was there yesterday. And so you were well represented. I just want you to know that. We were there for a Senate Bill 221 proposed by Senator Sharon Hewitt. I won't go into the details of that. I'll only say it set up a framework for a commission to have a voice in election integrity before the final decision is made by our Secretary of State. There are varying opinions on the value and utility of that bill, but what I do want to share with y'all is how impressed and moved I was by the people, the patriots. Y'all, there were people who drove from Shreveport there. The room was packed, the overflow room was packed, and I felt like I was in pre-revolutionary times, where ordinary people were coming forward and stepping to the microphone, and they had educated themselves. They had done research. Their remarks were well prepared. They were respectful, but they were passionate and firm, and they did not back down in telling the politicians how they felt that we are losing our country and that greater measures have to be taken and the people have to have a voice in election integrity. It was a great day. And I just want to mention Katie's husband, Chris Alexander, was one of the many speakers. He was powerful and eloquent. It was awesome. And y'all have been so proud. Okay, I also want to take just a minute to shout out. We don't usually do this, and I need to make a shout out to our wonderful committee chairs who work so hard behind the scenes. First of all, our sweet Mary Margaret Mook, who's at this front table. She does all our decorations. She puts the flags on the table. She's so sweet and diligent, and we never hear a peep from her. She's just a wonderful worker. And I also want to acknowledge Carol Whittle, who is our membership chair. She has to send in new members every month to the state organization, LFRW, and she's doing a fantastic job. Terry has trained her well. Thank you, Carol. And I want to acknowledge Sandra Campbell. Y'all are going to hear from her in just a moment, but she is so diligent. She is our Armed Forces Chair, and her dedication and her kindness goes beyond what I have time to describe up here. She's awesome. So, and last but certainly not least, I want to acknowledge our legislative chair. She is sitting at the head table. Susie LaBrie down at the end. Susie, some of y'all see the emails. They originate from Susie, whether her name's on them or not. And she keeps us abreast of what's coming up in the legislature that is important for us to be aware of. And next week, I want to tell you, as far as we know right now, it could change. As far as we know, next Thursday, a very important House bill is coming up. It is authored by Valerie Hodges from Denham Springs. It is House Bill 599. Yes. And it will lend a lot of weight and structure to really having election integrity oversight. So if any of y'all have never been to the legislature, just call me, come up and talk to me after. There's nothing hard about it, and it'll be a great experience if you've never been and you want to come and be in support of these good Republican bills. Okay. All right. And with that, that's all of our announcements. So I am going to invite Terry Hagan, our publicity chair, who has an announcement regarding membership.
Hello, everyone. So glad y'all are all here. I'm just so thrilled. For whatever reason, someone was asking me today, how are we attracting so many good members? I mean, we're just having a big influx of new members this year, like nothing we've ever seen before. Sounding like Trump now, but there are a few new members though that we need additional information from. We need these following members to please fill out our membership form, so we'll have all the information on you. I'm just going to name the people that are actually here, I think. Excuse me, Mary Janet. You all know? Did you get a form? Okay, good deal. Lisa Rosenzweig, okay, very good. Muriel Duggins, Betty Alexander, I'm not sure if she's here. I think someone else came in her place. And then Emily Trogel, I don't think she's here either. So, anyway, thank you.
Can I just say,
Yes, pardon me?
Emily has not come to a meeting. but she had a tree fall on her house during this last storm. So if y'all can pray for Emily,
Oh, yes, okay, very
we can
good.
do something.
We will keep her in mind, very good. But that's all I have to say. Thank y'all.
Okay, and y'all might notice today that our precious Drew up here, she is relieved of her duties for the day. No raffle, y'all don't have to worry, you're not gonna have to buy 20 tickets. But in lieu of Drew, we have our precious Sandra Campbell, our Armed Services Committee Chair, who's gonna come say a few words to us.
Trying times, trying to do for the veterans because of COVID. You can't go in and visit, and I've really been saddened that I can't even get responses from like the Jackson home, veterans home in Jackson, Louisiana, and even Raven's House here, which houses about 40 to 50 homeless veterans and gives them a program. And I don't know if a lot of you know about this program. And they seem to do a good job because they have to do counseling. But what I mainly am doing now is taking snacks. At Raven's House, for instance, they have to pay 75 cents or $1 just for a Coke or some peanut butter crisp or something, and they're always hungry. They make them do their own breakfast, and then they pack a lunch that has peanut butter crackers and or cookies and a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and sometimes chips. And then Piccadilly does an evening meal that is not very large. So you can understand, these guys are hungry. So that is what a lot of this money goes for. I just take down Cokes and microwave popcorn and cheese crisp and cookies. And if some of you love to bake cookies, we'd love to have them delivered too. But they're thrilled even with bought cookies. So open your hearts and your wallets, and I hope you will make a donation on the baskets that are on the center of the table. And keep them in your prayers. They need our prayers. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Like I had y'all on the phone.
Okay, and finally, our own Glenda Pollard has an announcement to make about an important upcoming event.
So good to see y'all. I can't believe these numbers. I remember when we were about, maybe 18. It's amazing, a few years ago. But I wanted to tell y'all that during the Class of Bernard campaign that I was a part of, I met this crew of warriors down in New Orleans, and they are fantastic grassroots volunteers, and they are trying to move the needle down there in different areas. And they're bringing in a speaker, Scott Pressler, who is involved with, I know a lot of y'all know who he is, but he cleaned up Baltimore, and he was a Trump supporter, and he saw the need in these impoverished areas that are being just ignored. And Johanna, Lady and I, and Lori, we are doing, I'm going to put a plug for Saturday. Lori is in charge of a litter cleanup in Cedar Crest, and we would love to have y'all with us. Rain or shine, we will pick up some litter. So 9 o'clock?
9 o'clock, Cedar Crest.
Okay, what else? Why else am I up here? Okay, the bus. All right, and Cinco de Mayo, May 5th, we are taking a bus down to New Orleans to hear Scott Pressler. We need 33.33 people to cover the cost of the bus. But these buses are so nice, and that's how, so y'all can send me a check for $30, or you can, we try to do it electronically. We moved from, what did we move from? Anyhow, Terry's gonna share it again. But we're going to leave at 4 o'clock from Mala, Louisiana, have a stop at Tanger, and then at 9 o'clock the event is over with and we'll come home. The event is free. They are not charging us for the event if we want to throw in some money at the event. But my husband's been to this cannery. It is supposed to be a fantastic venue down there. So, and it's huge. So if we can get 33.33 people, it would be awesome. And one more thing. I think that young people can come to this event, and I know some of you have younger children and you worry about babysitters or whatever. Put them on the bus. We don't want, really toddlers, but anyhow. But other than that, young people, I think, need to get engaged and hear both sides of the story. So I think my time is up. Any questions? Have I left out anything? Okay. All right.
Okay, and we were hoping to see our good friend James Lee. He's the State Director of Americans for Prosperity, but I know he's got a very busy day at the legislature today. But fortunately, we have Austin Lanklow, the grassroots director, of AFP, and he's going to come up and take a couple minutes to tell us about the proposed gas tax that they are opposing. Please go, Austin.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Ms. Debbie. I really do appreciate it. So, as a lot of you may know, AFP does like to fight against a gas tax increase, and especially right now, whenever we have gas prices going up, and we don't really have any jobs due to COVID-19. I don't know if y'all saw, there was a recent statistic that came out that about half of the 2020 college graduates in the United States do not have jobs right now. So we're seeing a big decrease in job opportunities in our country in general. So we want to make sure that on top of that, we do not have an increase of 22 cents per gallon on your gas. So we are looking to fight that battle. But I would like to let y'all know, we've been in the legislature for the past few days, and we have a lot of good reforms coming out in the tax structure of our state. So as Louisianans, we should be very proud of the progress we're making. So I just want to make sure that y'all know that we are on a good trend right now. But other than that, we will be having a grassroots leadership academy training. I know Ms. Debbie's been pushing for this for a while now. It's good to really learn how to be really involved in the grassroots efforts in Louisiana. And I do really encourage all of y'all to try to come by. It will be every Thursday for the next 5 weeks. It will be from 6:30 to 7:30 at our office. Of course, there'll be food provided. For those of you who go to AFP events, we always have the food. So yeah, if y'all have any questions or are interested in increasing your activism abilities in the state of Louisiana, you can feel free to reach out to me. I can send you the link, and we'd love to have you. So thank you so much for your time.
Okay, and now for the main event, I'm going to invite Lori Adams, our third VP and our program chair, to introduce a featured speaker.
I'm so short, I'm going to do this. So normally I prepare an introduction for this, but I just wanted to talk from my heart today because I want y'all to understand the critical role that Pelican Policy Institute is playing in our state. 2 years ago when I decided to run for state rep, as a principled conservative, I knew the things I believed in, I knew the things that were wrong, but when you're running for office and you're trying to find data and you're trying to find the words and the strategies that you think will work to change the future, change the course of our state, it is overwhelming. Now, as an elected official, I can tell you it's still overwhelming. So much is coming at me all the time, and I am a mile wide and an inch deep on 1,000 topics. Well, you don't make dramatic, systematic, strategic change when you're a mile wide and an inch deep on the challenges and the solutions for your state. And that's where Pelican Policy comes in. I cannot tell you how many times I've gone to their white papers. I cannot tell you how many times I've depended on Pelican Policy staff members to have the research, the knowledge, to understand what our challenges were, understand what other states were doing, and how we could bring those solutions here. The things that we're seeing happen in our legislature right now, I can't help but think that Pelican Policy and groups like AFP and Pelican Policy, they've made a difference for these legislators. It's tremendous. And so now, Daniel, I told Daniel I was mostly going to talk about Pelican Policy. We wouldn't have Pelican Policy in the form that it is, in the active, vigorous, engaged manner that it is, but wasn't for the leadership of Daniel Erspamer. So, Daniel?
All right, what a lovely introduction. Thank you. I will, before I start, I'd like to point out my lapel pin today. You guys recognize this?
Yes.
Is a special one. The only people that can wear this pin are graduates of the Pelican Leadership Academy, and I am so blessed to have two of our members, Miss Debbie and Miss Lori, who went through the Pelican Leadership Academy. So applications for that will open this summer for next year's class, so keep an eye out for it. We'd love for you to participate. It's a year-long program that dives in from principles of the Free Society to media coaching to spending some time on different policy issues. We just yesterday did a shadow day at the Capitol. Austin is a part of this as well for this year's class. And anyway, we're having a lot of fun, and it's a great opportunity, and it's right here in Baton Rouge. So encourage you to apply for that. All right, I am so glad to be here with you, and I'm so glad. I had a chance, I think, almost 2 years ago now. Gosh, it seems like yesterday. To speak to y'all, and I just love being with you. So thank you so much for what you do and for having me. I want to start with some numbers. So just keep these in your head for a minute. Maybe think about what they mean, and we'll come back to them. Three numbers. 432. First number is 432. The second one is 13,000. And the third number is 43. So 432, 13,000, and 43. I'm going to come back to those in just a minute. Be thinking. We'll see if there's any brave souls who want to take a guess at what some of those may mean. As Lori mentioned, here at Pelican, our job is to look at the conditions in Louisiana, to study them, to research, to follow the data, to try to understand. Ultimately, our objective is that everyone in Louisiana has the opportunity to flourish. That everyone has the opportunity to pursue the American dream, to pursue jobs or family, right? Whatever that is, entrepreneurship, everyone should have the opportunity to flourish, right? We can all agree that's a goal everyone left, right, center, all around can share. The question is, how do we do it? And make recommendations following that research to what can we do to bring jobs and opportunity back to Louisiana? What can we do to make sure we have a state worthy not only of us, but our kids and our grandkids? Just show of hands real quick. How many of you in the room have had a family member or close friend neighbor have to leave Louisiana to pursue work? So I travel all over the state, speak in every corner, every city, and I ask that question, and it's the same answer every time. This is a uniquely Louisiana experience. We're in the league of places like New York and California and Illinois and high-tax, high-regulation places that no longer can sustain the weight of big government, and so they're leaving, but they're not coming here. They're going to Texas and North Carolina and Florida and Tennessee. There is no reason we should not be on that list. There is no reason we can't make the changes to bring those family members back here, to create good quality jobs at home. We know how special our state is. We just have to have the policies that make this happen. And it's all within the legislature's grasp. It's all within our elected officials' grasp. So we'll talk some today about how to get there. We're going to talk about tax reform and a couple of other things. So let's go back to those numbers. 432. Any brave soul? Austin, you can't answer. Anybody know 432? Bill, actually, bills was a great guess. There are actually over 900 bills filed this session, which they will take up over the next couple of weeks. Great guess. All right, I'll tell you. 432. That is the number of pages in the Louisiana tax code just focused, that's not the whole tax code, just focused on corporate deductions, preferences, carve-outs, where government's in the position, right, of picking winners and losers. Now, we understand this makes sense for the company, right? If you're a company, your job is not to fix the tax code. Your job is to make sure you have the best situation you can for your customers, employees, and shareholders, right? But what's happened, our tax code is so broken that we just keep putting Band-Aids on top of Band-Aids, and now we have the most complex tax code in the country. And really, complexity is the sin here. I like comparison. So 432 pages in the corporate tax code just on deductions and carve-outs. By comparison, the New Testament in the King James Version of the Bible is 184 pages. So apparently our tax code is more complex than salvation history, but you know. We can fix this. We can get this right. We're going to talk about how we get there. So 432, if you know anything about the tax code, complexity is that sin. Our goal should be simple, flat, fair, and predictable. We can all come around these principles. There's some opportunities to at least make some steps toward that, and some opportunities to get all of it in the legislative session we'll talk about. Okay, 13,000. But actually, there are going to be two answers to 13,000. The first, 13,000, there are 13,000 words in the Louisiana State Constitution just instructing our lawmakers how they should spend our tax dollars. We have the second longest state constitution in the country. Alabama is longer than that. Again, by comparison, so this is not the whole Constitution, just the part about how our lawmakers should spend our money. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, when I go in the voting booth to cast a vote for a state legislator, among the most important things I'm considering is, are they going to reflect my priorities? Are they going to be good stewards of our tax dollars, right? It seems like it ought to be one of the most important things a lawmaker does. And yet, what we have done instead is codified in law priorities the generation past. So I want you to imagine, those 13,000 pages mean that when a lawmaker walks in the Capitol with about a $38 billion state budget, yeah, you start with that math, right? 4.6 people, $38 billion. Anyway, I'll let you do that one. But $38 billion state budget, our legislators only control about 11% of that. Now, I want you to imagine trying to run your household budget or your small business budget. If you walked in and your entire budget, or 90% of that budget, was pre-decided by your crazy uncle 50 years ago. We've had a few crazy uncles in our political history. Can you imagine trying to respond to current priorities or deal with things we didn't contemplate 50 years ago, right? And yet that's what we asked our lawmakers to do. So whenever there are challenges or trade-offs, they have a hard time making those decisions. Now, I'm not excusing that they shouldn't have to make those decisions, but it's very challenging. Again, by comparison, 13,000 words in the state constitution, how we should spend money. The entirety of the United States Constitution. Now, I think everyone in this room would agree. The U.S. Constitution is a masterful document. It encapsulates the entire American experiment. It's a great document, modeled around the world, known the world around as a guarantor of liberty, right? You can all agree it's a pretty good deal. The entirety of that is about 7,500 words. So we almost double the entire U.S. Constitution in our state constitution just in spending. This is crazy. Again, complexity is the sin. I mentioned 13,000 meant two different things. The second one is we are spending just over $13,000 per kid on public education here in Louisiana. Now, if you look at the rankings, we're in the bottom of just about every ranking on student outcomes. We make a little bit of progress in the last few years. But we're at the bottom of student outcomes and in the middle to the bottom of teacher pay. And yet we're spending more per kid than any of our neighboring states. Texas is spending just over $10,000. Georgia is spending about $11,000. Florida is around $9,000. Mississippi is about $10,000. So we're spending more per kid by a fair amount than any of our neighboring states. We're paying our teachers less and we're getting worse outcomes. So the question becomes, why? Right? Where's the money going? And the sad answer to that question is we don't know. A major priority for the Pelican Institute this year is supporting a bill brought by Representative Rick Edmonds. Most of you know, great guy. Rick has brought a bill that will require spending transparency at the school board level. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, the very least government can do is tell us how they're spending our money. Right? I mean, I have a lot more stuff. But at the very least, they need to tell us how they're spending it. Now, the school boards are going to come fight this. The teachers' unions are going to come fight this. They don't want you to know how they're spending money. So we've got two different ways to approach this. Please engage in this issue. Your lawmakers are going to need to hear from you, their constituents. Especially, I think it will get out of the House. It may be a fight in the Senate. So I'll look it up right when I'm done. I don't know it off the top of my head. Maggie, can I ask you? By the way, Maggie Anders, my colleague. Hi, Maggie. Say hi. So glad you're here. Two things. One, could you look up the bill number for the spending transparency, Rick Edmonds? It's on the legislative agenda. Also, while I'm talking about Maggie, she's a great addition. She joined our team toward the beginning of the year. She also has some sign-up forms. So if you're enjoying and hopefully will continue to enjoy some of this information, please sign up for the email list. We try to keep everyone engaged and up to date. There'll be opportunities to click through and contact your lawmakers, which you can do straight from our website. Just put in your address. It'll tell you who they are, how to contact them, and give you some information about key bills. So please sign up when you get a minute. And our sign-up sheets, I think, are at the table.
And there's some at your tables.
Some rotating around the table, so if you've got a pen, go there or at the front. Thank you for letting us pass those around. Please get involved. So thank you.
Yes. House Bill 38.
38. Thank you, Maggie. So this is an important one. Again, transparency. It's the least we can do is figure out how to spend money. Also, another way you can approach this is ask your school board members if for some reason this bill doesn't move through the legislature, they can do this locally. Lafayette Parish has done this. They have a website, Lafayette Checkbook, that you can go on and see checkbook level spending for Lafayette Parish schools. A couple of other parishes are also considering this, so there's no reason East Baton Rouge Parish School Board couldn't do this directly as well. So this is really important. We've got to have transparency, especially, by the way, schools are getting about $1 billion more this year through the federal bailout fund. $1 billion with a B. It's an old quote around Washington, right? $1 billion here, $1 billion there. Pretty soon you're talking about real money. Well, $1 billion here, $1 billion there. We've got $5 billion coming in of our federal tax dollars. Actually, that's not true. Our grandkids' federal tax dollars are coming into our state this year. We've got to keep an eye out, keep the heat on for transparency. All right, the next number, 43. Now this one, I want you to just think back to the last few years. Does the word fiscal cliff mean anything? Anybody hear that from our politicians? It seems like every couple of years we're headed for, fiscal disaster and we don't have enough money to spend, right? We've heard this. Well, as it turns out, in that time, in the last 5 years, state spending has grown by 43%. So if you remember, we raised sales taxes, right? And then temporarily, love that word, and then we did it again. And this was masterful politics, right? We raised the sales tax and called it a tax cut. Remember when that happened? Brilliant marketing. Unfortunately, we're all paying more money for it. We grew that budget by 43%, even while we hear our political leaders coming to us and saying, we don't have enough money, we need you to give more. We've got to hold spending in check. There's another really important bill, and I might ask Maggie to look up that number so we can share it with you, by Representative Bo Boyer from the Acadiana area, that would put a cap, a spending limit on state government. That says government should only, which one is it?
I think it's 385.
385, House Bill 385. This would be a constitutional amendment that would say, look, government should grow as fast as the state is growing. So if there's an increase in population, if there's a big inflationary pressure, there's a big increase in inflation or personal income is rising, okay, State government should grow to keep up with that. But while we've grown 43%, we have lost population. There's been very flat inflation, and personal income is not rising, it's flat. So we have grown, anybody's personal budget grown 43% in the last 5 years? Mine hasn't. This is big. We've got to keep an eye on, hold our politicians accountable. I'll tell you another one of this. You may have heard the governor talking a few years ago, and maybe still a little bit today, about how unemployment is down. This is pre-COVID, right? We've got the lowest unemployment we've had in years. Remember hearing that? Well, this one's kind of tricky too. He was saying that as we had some of the lowest numbers of employed people in our state, we've actually lost jobs year over year. So here's how that trick works, right? You calculate the unemployment rate by taking the total number of people who are either employed or actively looking for a job. You subtract out the number of people who have a job, and the difference of that you divide and you get a percentage. So if there are fewer people in the state and fewer people looking for a job, the percentage is going to go down, right? So I think about it this way. It's kind of like the pastor on Sunday taking the back few pews out of the church and saying we have higher Sunday attendance. So, again, ask questions, dive in, find those numbers. We're happy to help, but, a little healthy skepticism goes a long way. And because we don't face the truth too often, because we try to spin, and it's the nature of politics, I understand, what ends up happening is we can't actually fix things. The complex tax code, we're going to fix that by adding more credits, right? Our schools will just throw more money at it. Every year they come back and ask for more and more and more. This number, if I were to have come here last year and given this speech, was $12,000. That's before the federal bill. We just keep spending more money, and I don't think anybody in this room would argue we're getting better outcomes from government. Anybody think government's working better than it was? 43% better than it was 5 years ago? Yes, ma'am.
So if the schools were out this whole time, and they got $1 billion, and increase the spending $1,000 per child, nobody's going to school. Where did the money? That's what you're saying. Where did the money?
Where did it go? I can't answer that. Nobody can. Well,
There's no oversight. They're still paying it.
there's the state portion, we have some transparency on. So the school funding, it's a mix of what the state does and some local funding. That goes into a local school board, and then they spend it. That's where the blackness starts. That's where the opaqueness starts. It's just a black hole of money. We don't know. Now, you could go hire a lawyer and submit a public records request, and they would have to give you the information. But I don't know about you, but you probably don't spend a lot of time going and demanding by force of law that government give us information, right? We actually do that quite a bit at the Pelican Institute, if you ever need it.
But that shouldn't be the only way.
It should not be the only
We
way.
should be able to get that just by asking.
That's right. It should be available online. We're doing this now at the state level. It's not done yet, but y'all may have been involved with passing Louisiana checkbook 3 or 4 years ago. Great step forward. That's all we're asking schools to do, school boards to do, is provide us that level of transparency. This is a big issue. So, we've got problems, right? But here's the good news. We're at a critical moment. I mentioned earlier people leaving Florida, California and New York and Illinois, right? We've heard these stories. We live in the most mobile world, the most mobile workforce we've had in the history of the world. Right? Entrepreneurs from Silicon Valley can do their job anywhere, and they are. They're leaving. Right now, they're going to Austin, Texas. They're going to Miami. They're going to other places in Florida. They're going to North Carolina. They're going to Tennessee. They're not coming here. Now let's count our assets for a minute. We have cheap access to energy, abundant land, the most important waterway in the country coming right up our state. We have great people. We have a culture that people pay lots of money and come by the millions to enjoy our entertainment and food and sporting and outdoors and everything else, right? People come here voluntarily, but they don't stay. Why? Because taxes are too complicated. The schools are not doing well enough. We make it hard to find work. Here's another issue that's important. Something called occupational licensure. Have you heard of this? As you may know, we're the only state in the country to require florists to get permission from the government to do their job. Robert could tell you some about auctioneers and requiring a license from the government to do that. In fact, in Louisiana, we require a license for more low-income professions than any other state in the country. There was a recent study done by the Archbridge Institute out of Washington, D.C., and they wanted to know, was there any connection, was there any correlation between the level of occupational licensure requirements and economic mobility? And the sad answer is yes. The higher the licensure requirement, the harder it is to get out of pocket. And it makes sense, right? Because, for example, there's a big fight in the last couple years over hair braiding. We require these women, most of whom are learning it from a passed-down skill from family to family. Most of it happens out of living rooms and back porches across the state. And yet, the Cosmetology Board requires you to have training. It costs about $5,000 to $10,000 to get the training that's required. And then go apply, take a test, and then pay the fee to the state to get a license. That's crazy. And yet, we sat there, and some of you were in that room, and watched these people come to the table and argue in favor of keeping the system. And you know why? It's a cartel. It's money. Do you know who decides who gets a florist license?
The florist.
The florists. So let's think about that. If I'm running an incumbent business, and you come to my commission to ask to be a competitor of mine, and if your shop is close to mine, I'm not going to vote yes for you. Right? This is crazy. We can fix it. It just goes back to our deep roots of corruption and cronyism, right? That's the story, sadly, of Louisiana, but we can fix it. We have all of these assets. We know how special our state is. And frankly, millions of visitors from all around the world know how great our state is. So why can't we fix it? And the answer is almost entirely in policy. Okay, we can't do anything about the weather. Hurricanes are hurricanes, right? But almost everything else is within our grasp. What's the number one thing businesses say they want in a tax code? Predictability. It frankly isn't even high or low. Low is better than high. But it's predictability. We have such an unstable, right? If you have the resources to have an accountant and a lawyer and a lobbyist, by the way, there are lobbyists in that capital who make a profit off of the complexity. When they negotiate you a tax credit, they get a cut. Want to know why things don't change? That's why, among other reasons. Right? There is a deeply entrenched status quo in that building that does not want it to change because it gives them money and control. The only way to counter that are the people in this room. And I know y'all are the one, I'm preaching to the choir on this one. But let me remind you, you're the ones, I guarantee it, right? Whenever it's election season, you're the one your friends and neighbors call and say, now how should I vote on those constitutional amendments? And who should I vote for, right? That's you. You have enormous influence and power. And we use it a lot in election season, and that's good and important. But now's really the time to make it happen. Now's the time the rubber meets the road and things actually change, hopefully, or not. And so if you're not already, I know many of you are, and Debbie, you've been great. I saw Debbie at the Capitol the other day. You don't have to show up. Showing up is great. But you can call, you can send a letter, you can send an email, you can text them, you can run into your reps in the grocery store, talk to them about these issues. These are really important, and they need to hear from you, and they need to hear from you when they're doing the right thing as much as when we would like them to do something different, right? It's hard. Lori can tell you. You're an elected official, Tom can tell you this. People yelling at you all the time, right? You hear from them when they're mad at you or when you're doing something they don't want you to do. And they need to hear that. But call them when they're doing the right thing, too. Say thank you. So grateful for your leadership on this. You know, all too often we ask these elected officials who, by and large, are politicians, right? I mean, there's some great champions and great principled leaders. We have a lot of just politicians in the world, and that's fine. But if you're a politician, your job is to get reelected. Raise money, right? You don't want to do something courageous or out on a limb or that's hard, right? That makes it harder to get reelected. We got to make them feel that. We got to help them see we've got your back. This is an easy vote. This is in your interest. And that's, again, where you come in. So I'm so grateful that you all are so active in this. We need more. We need rooms full of this all over. Like I said, I speak all over the state, and this is a great full room. Some of them are small and a handful of people, and they're great too, right? But it's going to take us really coming and saying we don't want the status quo. We want change, and we want it now. If we don't do it now, we will miss this opportunity, right? We have people who are ready for a low cost of living and high quality of life. Hey, we got it. Come on. Right? But we've got to make those signs to say, come, we want you. We're going to make it a better place to live and raise a family and grow a business and start a new enterprise. It's within the power. So we talked about tax reform. We got a low, flat, fair, simple, predictable. We can do it. There are about, I haven't counted lately, Austin, you may know this number. There are at least 100 bills just on taxes. Right, this is a fiscal session. Those of you, I'm sure you know this. We can only do tax issues every other year, an odd number of years. So this is our year. Can't do it next year, and then the next year after that's an election year, and rare that bold stuff happens in an election year. So this is our year to make this happen. Thankfully, our legislative leadership appear to be behind some reform. Again, the status quo forces who don't want things to change are going to try to chip away at that, right? So we've got to be that counterbalance. We've got to make sure those lawmakers take bold steps to simplify the tax code, that they bring us transparency in education and begin down the road. Our goal is the dollars we're spending on our education can follow every child in Louisiana to the school of their choice. And we've learned in the last year, every parent has learned in the last year, the school does not have to mean walking into a government building at 8 o'clock in the morning and leaving at 3 p.m. For some, that's a wonderful solution, and we should continue to strengthen and make our public schools the best in the world. But for some kids, one size fits all doesn't fit. And every child deserves a school that fits them. Everyone. We can make that happen. We've seen all sorts of innovations, from online learning to learning pods to homeschool co-ops and private schools and charter schools, and the options are abundant. The options exist to serve every child. We just don't let them do it. It's not fair that the only kids that have school choice come from wealthy families. Right? I'm deeply blessed. I've got 4 kids. They go to Catholic school down the street from us. We live in uptown New Orleans. I'm blessed to be able to do that. We've made that a priority for our kids, but that doesn't work for everyone. There are a lot of people, families who could never afford that. And it's just not fair that my kids get that and theirs don't. We can do that for everyone.
Who benefits from not allowing the children to have a choice, or the parents to have a choice? The teacher unions?
Teacher unions and school administrators. Now, please don't misunderstand me. The district and school administrators, there's some really great people. It's not a personal attack. The system is structured that way. They see it as losing money. Yeah. We all too often forget our schools are about the kids, not the grown-ups. The grown-ups matter. Our teachers are wonderful. They're really important. The school's about the kids. And so what they say if we said one of our solutions would be that every kid should have an education savings account. So the money we're going to spend as a state goes into an account, and you as a parent can direct that to whatever school or learning opportunity fits you. Right? Well, the school district is going to say, well, you're taking $13,000 away from me.
Well, do the job, and then they'll come to you.
That's exactly the right answer. But that's the answer to your question. It's going to be the unions and sort of the status quo, school boards and parish administrators. There are some great ones out there, and one who want to do this well, but that's who's going to fight. So education is important. One last thing I'll mention is technology and innovation. Our goal is to make Louisiana the most innovation-friendly state in the country, right? So I never thought we'd be working on issues like this. It's fascinating. I'm learning a lot. We have a colleague on our team named Eric Peterson who's really dug in. There's a bill about drones this year, right? Drones, as it turns out. I grew up watching the Jetsons, and I was promised flying cars by now. I'm a little bitter that we don't have them. Alas, we don't. Great thing. But drones have become a really important part in a lot of industry, right? In the oil and gas industry, they play an important role. I learned recently, so you're driving up, I gotta go to Shreveport next week. I'm going to Shreveport next week, and I'll drive up I-49 and just expanses of nothingness, right? But those power lines go across, right? And so you can't get cars or other things, so they send drones to check and make sure a tree hasn't fallen on it, or they need to clear something. Drones are an important part of this. We haven't established the rules of the road. And what will happen, if we don't, is the government will see, one, money, and two, power, and try to shut that down. Same thing, we've got some ideas around what's called regulatory sandboxes. So if you've got a new idea, we've got two moving in the legislature this year, one on insurance products. We've been talking about the cost of car insurance for a while in the state. This is another way to think about this. Can we create a playing field where new products can come to market quicker without having to go through all of the regulatory process and the red tape that's established to keep new ideas out, right? To keep incumbent businesses in. With some safety guardrails and oversight, right, so that customers aren't harmed, but some space for new ideas to form. We've got one on that and on financial technology, online transactions, that sort of thing. Again, another really important part, emerging part of many business models. We can do this. We can bring these entrepreneurs here to Louisiana. We call it the Silicon Bayou. And there's some opportunity here. There's a couple in Lafayette and New Orleans, actually, some sort of growing, and here in Baton Rouge, some growing technology entrepreneurs and enterprises. We should welcome them here. This is a great opportunity for those businesses to thrive. We just make it really hard. So we could talk about lots of things, and I'll stop talking. I'm happy if we've got time to answer questions or talk about whatever's helpful. But I just want to encourage you, it is within our grasp to make a difference. What we hope to do at Pelican is to provide some resources, ideas, solutions, work with lawmakers, work with leaders like you. If we can be helpful to you in any way, please reach out. Like I said, join the mailing list. We'll do, when some of these bills are coming up, we'll send out an alert that says it's going to be heard today. If you want to contact your lawmaker, click here. Keep you up to date on different issues that we're working on. We've got, I think at last count, I went through and counted, we've got something like 250 pages of research around we call our jobs and opportunity agenda, the key pieces of policy change to move jobs. That 25-page tax paper, let me tell you, it's a humdinger. So if you're really looking for some excitement, you can read that. This is within our grasp, and we can do it. I want to be a partner to you. We want to be a partner to you. So please let us know how we can help. Thank you so much for getting involved. Thank you for giving me a few minutes to share our priorities. I really appreciate it.
Do you have any more questions for Daniel? Everybody asked as we were going. Okay.
All right.
If not, Daniel, just a little something to say thank you. And we're here. We're engaged. And thank you for just reminding us of how critical it is for us to not ever let up. And I have to tell you, I worked for a state center for a number of years. And when it came time for a vote, I was printing out emails and we were looking at the stacks. It matters. It matters. Sending those emails matters. So,
Okay, just a couple of final announcements before Terry Hagan comes up and announces the door prizes. I wanted to let you all know a couple of things, and things have been happening so quickly, I haven't even had a chance to tell my board. So y'all are hearing it at the same time the board hears it. But anyway, I want to let you guys know that I saw Kyle Orwin the other day, and he came up and he said, Debbie, I definitely want to meet with your executive board about the election integrity issue and hear what you have to say. So we're very appreciative of that, and we're looking forward to it, and I'll let y'all know as soon as we get a date for that. And then also, I want to just let y'all know what's coming up. In May, we are very fortunate, many of you know this name, we are going to have the very well-known economist Warren Scott speak at our May meeting. And I don't have to tell you, I usually got to pay $70 or something to hear Warren Scott, but it'll be interesting with all that's happening. Daniel spoke about oil and gas, but it'll be interesting to hear Warren's take on where we are and what he sees down the road economically for our state. I also want to make you aware in June, we have booked, it's going to be a Zoom meeting. Many of you were here when I showed a clip of the video in which Michelle Malkin interviewed Joe Oltman, who was researching Antifa and found in the smack middle of Antifa accidentally, he stumbled upon Eric Coomer, who is the Vice President of Strategy and Security for Dominion Voting Systems. Joel Altman has graciously agreed to speak to us via Zoom from his Colorado office. And so that is very exciting. I want to encourage you now. We would love to get as many legislators here as possible. Now this is a different topic from computer systems and the way they can be hacked. This is going to be about extreme bias by some of the players that control our election integrity, but I think it'll be a very important meeting. So I just wanted to mention that to you so you can put it on your calendars and go ahead and contact your legislators now. That will not be on a Thursday, it'll be on a Tuesday so that we don't have anybody in the room next door and we can crank up the volume. So please go ahead and think about contacting your reps. The session ends on June 10th. This will be Tuesday, June 22nd, okay? So mark your calendars. And with that, where's Miss Terry? There she is. She's got the good stuff.
Okay, we have 2 more prizes to give out today, and I will let Lori White Adams pick out our first ticket. Okay.
Oh, goodness, I can't even get it.
Oh, that's hard. Okay, very good. Okay, so it's the red ticket. Well, we only gave out one ticket. The last 3 digits are 585. Who? Judy?
Right here.
Oh, yeah! Okay, and then we'll just do one more. Okay, the last 3 digits are 590.
We have one final announcement coming from Ms. Kathy Costanza.
A little bird told me that someone very special has a birthday tomorrow. And so we're going to wish our beloved President Debbie Keeney a happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
Thank y'all so much. Thank you. That was so precious. Okay, that's our meeting for today. I just want to remind you one last time, next week is coming up a very important House bill. That's 599, authored by Valerie Hodges. We think it's going to be next Thursday in the legislature. Stay tuned to your email. Susie will keep us posted. Okay.